What if I told you that just 0.1 Bitcoin, not the whole Bitcoin, not even half, could be the difference between financial struggle and financial freedom? I know that sounds insane. After all, 0.1 BTC today might feel like nothing. It's not even close to owning one full Bitcoin. But here is the reality. In a world where there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, 0.1 is enough to put you ahead of almost everyone else on Earth. So in this video I'm going to break down why 0.1 BTC could be your ticket to freedom, why most people underestimate it, and how I personally think about it as part of my long-term strategy. Stick with me because by the end you'll see Bitcoin in a way you probably never have before. Before we start, a quick disclaimer. This video is not financial advice. I'm not here to tell you what to buy or sell. I'm just sharing research, history and my personal perspective on Bitcoin. Remember, investing is risky. You can lose money. Never invest more than you can afford to lose, and always do your own research or talk to a professional before making financial decisions. With that out of the way, let's start with the math, because numbers don't lie. There are 21 million Bitcoin ever. That's hard-coded. But here's what people forget. Not all of those are even available. Estimates suggest that around 4 million Bitcoin are lost forever. Think about old hard drives, thrown out, forgotten wallets. People who mined in 2010 and never thought it would matter. So realistically, maybe 17 million Bitcoin are actually in circulation. Now divided by the global population, over 8 billion people. That math, you'll see that where Bitcoin, when evenly distributed, each person would only get 0.002 Bitcoin. That's less than 1/500th of a Bitcoin. So owning 0.1 Bitcoin doesn't just put you above average, it actually places you in the top few percent of people worldwide who will ever be able to own that much. Think about it. You don't need to be a millionaire. You don't need to own 10 or 100 Bitcoin. Just 0.1 makes you part of an ultra elite group. Here's the funny part. Most people hear 0.1 Bitcoin and shrug. They think, what's that going to do for me? And I get it. If you're looking at Bitcoin as just a quick flip, 0.1 doesn't feel like a big deal. But Bitcoin isn't about short-term gains. It's about asymmetry. It's the upside compared to the risk. Let me explain. If you hold 0.1 Bitcoin, yes, it's only a fraction of a whole coin. But if Bitcoin goes where many of us believe it will be in the next decade, $500,000, $1 million per Bitcoin, then suddenly 0.1 BTC equals to 50k, to 100k. That's life-changing money for many people. And the risk, well, the downside is capped. You can only lose what you put in. That's what makes Bitcoin truly unique. It's asymmetric. The masses dismiss 0.1 because they don't zoom out far enough. They think in fiat terms today instead of scarcity terms tomorrow. But let's take a step back and deeper. Because the real question is, why does 0.1 Bitcoin equals to freedom? Here's the truth. Freedom doesn't necessarily mean being ultra rich. It means having choices. It means not being trapped by debt, inflation or governments debasing your money. If you live in the UK, the US, Europe, you know inflation is eating away at your savings. The prices rise, salaries don't keep up. If you live in places like Argentina, Turkey, Nigeria, you already know what currency collapse feels like. Bitcoin is the first asset in history that is borderless. You can carry it anywhere. Permissionless, no bank can freeze it, and scarce, can't be printed. Owning 0.1 Bitcoin is like owning your own personal slice of freedom insurance. It's not about Lambos, it's about knowing you have an asset that is outside the system, that no politician or banker can touch. That's why I personally feel Bitcoin holdings not just as an investment, but as a freedom ticket. Let's look at the history. In 2012, people laughed at one Bitcoin being worth $12. They thought, what is one Bitcoin ever going to do? If you bought one back then, you'd be sitting on over $100,000 today. In 2016, people scoffed at 0.1 Bitcoin, costing around $70. They said it's too small, it's pointless. Today that same 0.1 Bitcoin is worth crazy amounts of numbers, 10,000 plus dollars. Every single cycle, people dismiss small amounts. And every single cycle, they look back and say, damn, I wish I stacked more. The same psychology is happening right now. People are blind to what 0.1 could mean in the future because they're too focused on what it looks like today in fiat terms. Now here's another way to see it, to face it. Let's connect Bitcoin to wealth inequality. Right now, the top 1% of the world controls nearly half of the global wealth. Everyone else fights over scraps. Traditional assets, real estate, stocks are already owned by the ultra wealthy. Bitcoin flips the script, I believe. It's still early enough that anyone with discipline can grab a slice. 0.1 might not sound like much, but in a decade it could represent wealth levels that most people can't even dream of. The elites are already stacking. Hedge funds, corporations, billionaires. They get it. They don't dismiss small amounts. They know the scarcity math. So ask yourself, do you want to be on the side of the masses who ignore it? Or the side of those who quietly accumulate before it's too late? Now here's the encouraging part. 0.1 BTC is still relatively achievable for most people. Think about it, at $1 million per coin, that's 100k. That's not pocket change, but it's within reach if you commit. If you save, you cut back on things that don't matter. I've shared before how I cut out little habits. Iced teas, renting out my parking space, random shopping, just to stack more sats. Because I know the future value of even small amounts will dwarf the sacrifices today. This is what I love about Bitcoin. It democratizes opportunity. You don't need to be born into wealth. You don't need to be a hedge fund manager. You just need to build discipline long enough to see the long game. Now, let's talk about the psychology, because this is where most people fail. They see Bitcoin as a gamble or they try to trade it. But Bitcoin is a savings technology. It's about shifting your mindset from chasing quick gains to building long-term wealth. When you own 0.1 BTC, something changes. You suddenly see money differently. You stop thinking in fiat terms at all. And you start thinking in terms of scarcity. You realize, hey, I'm part of a small group that owns a meaningful piece of the hardest money ever created. The shift in thinking alone is worth more than the price of admission. Because once you see the system for what it is, inflation, debt traps, endless money printing, you can't unsee it. Let's play out some real scenarios. Imagine you live in a country with hyperinflation. Your savings get wiped out completely, but you own 0.1 BTC. That asset holds value globally. You can leave, move, start fresh, and your wealth goes with you. Or imagine the next financial crisis hits. Banks freeze withdrawals, stocks tanks, fiat get printed into oblivion. While others panic, you sit knowing your 0.1 Bitcoin can't be touched, seized or inflated away. Or imagine Bitcoin hits $1 million. Your 0.1 BTC equals 100k. That's a down payment on a house. That's the ability to pay off your debt. That's the freedom to take a risk on your dreams. It's not just about a number, it's about what it enables you to do. I'll be honest with you, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know exactly where Bitcoin price will be in 5 years. The truth is, nobody does. But I do know this. When I look back at every cycle, the people who took small positions, even fractions, ended up thanking themselves later. And the people who waited, hesitated or dismissed it always regretted it. That's why I'm personally prioritize stacking as much as I can, even up to 0.1 BTC at a time. Because I would rather look back and say, I'm glad I did, than sit here wishing I had. So here's the bottom line. 0.1 Bitcoin might not make you a billionaire. It might not make you retire tomorrow. But it could be the difference between being trapped by the system or having the freedom to choose your own path. Most people will never own that much. Most people will never understand it until it's too late. But you, if you're watching this, you're miles ahead. You see the bigger picture. So don't underestimate the power of 0.1 BTC. It might be small today, but in the future, it could be the key to your freedom.